Hi everyone, my name is FlygonHG, and this is the video of my attempt at a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokémon FireRed using only Poison Type Pokémon. To see what I define as Hardcore Nuzlocke Rules, check out the description below. But in short, no items in battle, no overleveling past the gym leader's ace, and we're playing on set mode. At the end of my last video, I said the next video would be Pokémon Diamond using fire types only. That's currently underway, and you can follow my progress over on Twitch if you're interested. But it's taking quite a while. Turns out, it's pretty difficult. So in the meantime, I thought I'd tackle a challenge that's been requested a lot, but is a bit on the easier side. Poison-type Pokémon aren't traditionally thought of as the best Pokémon by any means. Especially in earlier generations, most poison types really suffered from shallow move pools. Most poison types have a few unreliable status moves, and then some low base power damaging moves like Poison Sting, Acid, Bite, Wrap, pretty useless moves. It's kinda pathetic, but in FireRed, there's a lot of poison types, and a lot of them have some really useful secondary typings, including the starter, Bulbasaur. Victory Bell is exclusive to Leaf Green, so I won't be using it, and I won't be able to evolve Haunter into Gengar, but everything else is completely accessible, which gives us 12 poison type encounters to choose from. I think that's a record number of encounters for one of my challenges, so this should be fun. Let's see how it goes. Quick reminder before we start, I play with Species Clause, so I'll be able to reroll encounters until I get a unique encounter, but I can only use one of each unique evolution line. Okay, let's do this. I start the run by picking Bulbasaur, who I named Datura. Our rival, Antitox, immediately challenges us to our very first Pokemon battle against his Charmander. This Charmander will be a bit of trouble later down the line, but right now, we take care of it no problem. An easy victory. First try. After that, we head into Viridian Forest to catch our second team member, a Weedle. I name her Arsenic. Arsenic will be incredibly important later in this run, but right now, she's just here to cheer on Datura. Not that Datura really needs it. As soon as we get to Pewter City, we barge into Brock's gym, smack around his Pokemon with a few Vine Whips, and then dip before he can even say anything creepy about Nurse Joy. That's badge number 1. Up next, we get a handful of new encounters. Before that, though, Arsenic evolves into Kakuna. And then, Datura evolves into Ivysaur. Then we head to Route 3, and I catch a male Nidoran, and I name him Cyanide. And after a quick stint of training, Cyanide evolves into Nidorino. Not wanting to feel one-upped by Cyanide, Arsenic also evolves into Beedrill. Then it's time to head to Mount Moon, where we find our fourth encounter, a Zubat. I name her Nicotine. And then on the other side of Mount Moon, I catch an Ekans, which of course doesn't have Intimidate, but I name him Cytotoxin. And then it's time to take on our rival Antitox yet again. There's a handful of rival fights that are pretty challenging, but this one isn't one of them, so let's just move on. North of Cerulean City, I catch an Oddish and I name her Hemlock. And with that, we have a full team of 6 Pokemon before the second badge. Speaking of, it's time for the second gym battle against Misty. Now this could theoretically be a pretty difficult fight, since Misty has a Starmie which is part Psychic type. But Misty Starmie doesn't actually know any psychic moves, which is going to be a recurring theme in this playthrough. And since Swift is physical in Gen 3, and Starmie's physical attack isn't particularly high, Datura is able to take care of Misty all by himself. So that's badge number 2. Before heading to the third gym, a bunch of our team members evolve. First is Cyanide, who evolves into Nidoking with the help of a Moonstone. Nidorino's move pool is so terrible in this game that it isn't really worth it to delay his evolution. So suddenly we have a powerhouse on the team. Next, Nicotine evolves into Golbat. And then Cytotoxin evolves into Arbok. And finally, Hemlock evolves into this unholy abomination. Ugh. After that, it's time to take on Lieutenant Surge. But now that Cyanide has a secondary ground typing, Lieutenant Surge's electric types really can't do much damage. So a few Digs and Thrashes take care of all of his Pokemon. Of course, as is written in the sacred texts of every world religion, the electric-type gym leader will always get at least one paralysis off, so Cyanide does get paralyzed from a static. But even paralyzed, Cyanide is able to take out Raichu in a few turns. And that wins us the third gym badge. There's no other poison-type encounters on our way to the fourth gym, so it's time to take on Erika. There is this guy, though, who's definitely giving off some pretty toxic vibes. Either way, Erika is pretty easy. Her Pokemon only know Poison and Grass moves, so they really can't do much damage to Nicotine, who is able to hit hard with Wing Attack. It's a pretty clean sweep, but Victory Bell does try its hardest to give Nicotine a run for her money. It hits a critical hit Acid, and Nicotine gets fully paralyzed twice. That's pretty awful RNG, but after I take out the victory bell, the RNG averages out and I'm able to finish off the rest of Erika's team without much of an issue. Since FireRed is a remake of the original games, it's one of the most simply designed games, so a lot of the gym leaders can be pretty easily checked by fairly common Pokemon. It's actually why I recommend FireRed as one of the first games for people to Nuzlocke. It's still a challenge, but you get a lot of help from the game along the way. Anyways, that's badge number 4. Next, the map of Kanto opens and our level cap spikes from 29 all the way to 43. Both Koga and Sabrina have the same level cap, so we'll need to take them on back to back. First, Datura evolves into Venusaur. Then we do the whole Team Rocket thing at the game corner and in Lavender Town, but it's all skippable. In Pokemon Tower, I catch a Ghastly named Strikeanine, and she replaces Arsenic on the team, at least for now. And then soon after, Strikeanine evolves into Haunter. Next, on our way to Fuchsia City, I catch a Venonat and name her Oleander. Oleander goes into the box to keep Arsenic company. Then it's off to the Safari Zone to pick up an old guy's pair of teeth, which is definitely a normal thing to do in video games. I also catch a female Nidoran and name her Botox. She goes to join the girls in the box, but it's nice to know that Cyanide has a replacement in case the unthinkable happens. I also use a Leaf Stone to evolve Hemlock into a Vileplume after she learns Moonlight. Up next is one of the more difficult fights in the run, the rival battle in Silphco. This is particularly challenging because of my rival's Alakazam, an incredibly strong and incredibly fast psychic type that can fire off stab super effective psychics into my entire team. So, it's time to bring on the psychic killer, Arsenic. I EV trained Arsenic in attack and speed. In fact, I actually do the speed training on Route 1, so I'm able to get all the speed EVs in a single level. She gains plus 21 speed, which is always cool to see. After this intense grinding session, Arsenic is a machine with one purpose, firing Twin Needles into Alakazams. Antitox leads Pidgeot, and I lead Nicotine. We trade wing attacks back and forth for a few turns, and we come out on top. Execute comes out next, so I switch in Hemlock, who gets hit by a Stun Spore. Then I put the Execute to sleep as I get hit by a Confusion. On the next turn, I switch to Arsenic and take out the sleeping Execute with a single Twin Needle. The Alakazam comes out next, but we outspeed and knock it out before it can do anything. But then the Charizard comes out, who is about to launch a massive flamethrower into someone. I switch in Cyanide, who gets hit hard, but on the next turn, Cyanide connects with a Rock Slide to take out the Charizard. It works out, but it was really dangerous. I could have been crit by the flamethrower could have burned me, or I could have just missed the Rock Slide. I'm not sure if I'd be able to win if any of those things happened. But anyways, last is Gyarados, but because Gyarados is completely walled by Datura, after a few turns, it goes down, and Antitox is defeated. After that, we defeat Giovanni and save Silphco, and as thanks, the Silphco president gives me a Master Ball, and then I blow a hole through his building with Dig, which I'm pretty sure is an act of domestic terrorism. Anywho, next up is Koga. And remember how I said that most of the gym leaders in Kanto are checked pretty easily by a single common Pokemon? Well, Koga's check is Strikeanine. All of Koga's Pokemon quite literally can't do anything to Strikeanine other than use Sludge, which Strikeanine has a 4x resistance to. The Muck does waste a fair deal of time using Minimize, but eventually we're able to take it down. Even if the Wheezings and Coughings were able to survive a Psychic, they can't even use Self-Destruct, so it's a super easy win for badge number 5. Immediately after that, we go and take on Sabrina, who has another Alakazam, so it's time for Arsenic to stab some Psychic types. Only problem is that Sabrina's Alakazam will be faster than Arsenic, so we'll need to work around that. Sabrina leads Kadabra, so Arsenic smacks it down with a single Twin Needle. Then Mr. Mime comes out, so I use this opportunity to set up an Agility to up my speed. Now I'll be faster than the Alakazam. A Twin Needle takes care of Mr. Mime on the next turn, after it just wastes some time using Calm Mind. The Alakazam comes out third, but thanks to Agility, we outspeed and knock it out. Venomoth is last, but a few cuts take it out before any real damage can be done. It does manage to use Supersonic, but we have a Persim Berry to cure that, and that gets us our 6th gym badge. After that, we dig a hole through Sabrina's gym, committing our second act of domestic terrorism in Saffron City, and then we head on our way. Since Koga's been defeated, we now have access to Surf, which means we can get our final 3 encounters. First, I surf off the coast of Vermilion City to catch a Tentacool. I name her Fleckery. Then I head to Celadon City, where I surf in this tiny patch of water and find a Coughing. Coughing has a 1% encounter rate here, so this does take a while, but eventually I find one and I name her Phosgene. Lastly, I head to the Cinnabar Mansion to catch a Grimer. I name her Polonium. Polonium and Phosgene go into the box, but Fleckery's going to be joining the team, and she'll replace Hemlock. While training Fleckery on Ghastly to max out her special attack, she evolves into Tentacruel. Tentacruel is easily one of the best Pokemon you can get in a Nuzlocke. They're fast, very bulky, and can hit pretty hard with the proper EV investments. I take the time to completely max out Fleckery's special attack and speed. And then from here, we can go to Blaine's gym and smack down his fire types with some surfs. I'd be pretty hard pressed to find a fully evolved water type Pokemon that you can't sweep Blaine with. The Arcanine does survive a surf, but that's because I wasn't even close to the level cap. So Arcanine goes down a few turns later, and that wins us the 7th gym badge. Almost as easy as Blaine is Giovanni. Actually, arguably, he's even easier. Fleckery takes out his Rhyhorn, his Dugtrio, and then his second, slightly bigger Rhyhorn. Nidoqueen comes out next, and though a Surf will likely take it out, I don't want to risk it hanging on with just a sliver and retaliating with an Earthquake. So I decide to switch to Strikeanine and take it out with a Psychic. And a single Psychic knocks out the Nidoking too, winning us our 8th and final gym badge. The last challenge is the Elite Four. Here's our final team after leveling up to the level cap of 60. Was this the final team that you were expecting? Let me know in the comments. Either way, let's see if we have what it takes. First up is Lorelei, and she's actually the most difficult Elite Four member for us to deal with, by a long shot. 3 of my Pokemon are weak to ice moves, and I don't have a very solid plan for this fight. So if something bad is going to happen, it'll probably be here. Lorelei leads Dewgong, and I lead Strikeanine. I hit a Psychic, which luckily drops her special defense, as Dewgong wastes time with a Safeguard. Thanks to the special defense drop, another Psychic takes it out on the next turn. Slowbro comes out next, but it doesn't actually know any Psychic moves, so I'm safe to knock it out with 2 Shadow Balls, while it just uses Amnesia. Third is Lapras, so I start with a Psychic. Lapras hits a Confuse Ray, so on the next turn, I switch to Fleckery. And from there, I Toxic Lapras, and then stall her out by switching between Fleckery and Strikeanine. Because Lapras likes to go for Body Slams on Fleckery, it gives me a safe switch into Strikeanine. And because Lapras likes to go for Ice Beams on Strikeanine, it gives me relatively safe switches into Fleckery. This takes a little while because Lorelei uses a full restore at one point, so I need to maneuver Fleckery back in and hit another Toxic, but eventually we get to a point where Lapras is in the red again. I expect her to use another full restore here, so I go for a Curse with Strikeanine, which is really stupid, because she doesn't heal and instead retaliates with an Ice Beam. Somehow though, I'm not punished and Strikeanine survives with 4 HP. But that was pretty dumb. Cloyster is out next, but its only attacking move is Dive, so I switch to Datura and take it out with a Razor Leaf. Last is Jinx, whose only attacking move is Ice Punch, so I switch into Fleckery. But Jinx hits a Lovely Kiss, which puts me to sleep. I then stay asleep for 3 full turns as Jinx puts me into crit range before I'm able to wake up. So I decide to switch into Arsenic, who gets hit with an Ice Punch, which freezes. Like, are you kidding me? I'm in range to a crit Ice Beam, but my team's running low on health, so I just keep Arsenic in, hoping that I can dethaw quickly. Luckily, I get an immediate dethaw, and I take out the Jinx, winning us the battle. Never underestimate the psychic killing machine that is Arsenic, but that was a little too close to being a total disaster. Anyways, next is Bruno, who is way easier. In fact, he's almost a complete sweep with Fleckery. She takes out Bruno's Onyxai, with 2 Surfs, and then the Hitmonchan comes out. But it goes down to 2 Surfs as it just uses Rock Tomb. Thanks to Fleckery's Clear Body ability, her speed isn't dropped. So Hitmonlee is next and goes down to 2 Surfs as it just misses a Mega Kick. Mega Kick would have done pretty solid damage if it had hit and crit, but I think Fleckery would still be fine. Last is Machamp, and we hit a Surf to do a decent amount of damage. Then I switch into Datura. Datura hits a Razor Leaf and then puts the Machamp to sleep with Sleep Powder as it just does some damage with Cross Chop. A final switch to Strikeanine and a Psychic take out the Machamp, winning us the battle. Third is Agatha, who also has all poison types, but hers are significantly worse. She leads Gengar, who sets up a double team, because that's the only viable strategy that Gen 3 AI can come up with. I eventually hit through it with Nicotine to take it out. Haunter is second, and hangs on from a wing attack as it puts Nicotine to sleep. A switch to Fleckery and a Surf knock out the Haunter. Third is Gengar, who goes down to 2 Surfs as I shake off a Hypnosis with a Lumberry. Fourth is Golbat, who gets 1 shot by an Ice Beam. And last is an Arbok, who goes down to 2 Surfs. Arbok is such a cool Pokemon, but sadly, it's pretty bad. That's Agatha defeated, so next up is Lance. He leads Gyarados, but as I've said before, Gyarados is walled completely by Datura. So I set up a Leech Seed to keep me healthy and start whittling away at the Gyarados. I also put it to sleep. On the next turn, I switch in Fleckery, and then finish off the Gyarados with an Ice Beam. After that, Ice Beams clean through Lance's entire team. This is why Tentacruel is so good. Not only is it strong enough to be able to one-shot everything on Lance's team, it's also fast enough to outspeed the Aerodactyl. Though I think that's only because of Badge Boost. With that, we've beaten the Elite Four. But the final challenge is to defeat our rival Antitox one more time. He fancies himself the strongest Pokemon trainer in the world, so I think it's time to take him down a few pegs. I'm not gonna lie, this battle gets pretty sloppy. I'm not playing my best here, but it's fine. I lead Datura into Pidgeot and set up a Leech Seed. Then I start doing some damage. The plan here is to get Arsenic in right before Pidgeot faints so that I can use Agility and outspeed Antitox's Alakazam. It requires some really risky plays, like hitting a Sleep Powder when I'm in range of a crit. But I do, and then Pidgeot goes for a full restore. So we do the same song and dance all over again. And somehow I'm able to hit the Sleep Powder again right when I need to. So on the next turn, I switch in Arsenic. Then I use Agility, and luckily the Pidgeot stays asleep for 3 turns. On the next turn, I hit the Pidgeot with a Rage, but somehow that doesn't kill it, so Pidgeot wakes up and hits an Aerial Ace. But again, I'm not punished and hang on with 12 HP. The Alakazam comes out next, so one last time, Arsenic hones her needles and impales the Alakazam. Third is Rhydon, so I switch to Cyanide and hit it with an Earthquake. It does a lot of damage, but it's not quite enough to knock it out, so Rhydon is able to retaliate with an Earthquake of his own, taking out Cyanide. Rest well, Cyanide. Your job is done. We'll be okay now. Strikeonine comes out to take out Rhydon with a Psychic. Next is Gyarados, so I use Curse to start doing damage each turn. And then the Gyarados misses a Hydro Pump. That probably would have taken out Strikeonine, but even if it had, this battle is pretty over at this point. I switch to Datura and hit a Sleep Powder. On the next turn, I switch to Nicotine so that she'll be out for the Exeggutor. A few Wing Attacks take out the Gyarados after Antitox uses a full restore. Then the Exeggutor comes out. But again, it doesn't know any Psychic moves, so 2 Wing Attacks take it out. Last is the Charizard, and the safest play here is to get a clean switch into Fleckery. So I let Nicotine go down to a Fire Blast, but she dodges the attack. On the next turn, I decide to throw Caution into the wind. Always a good thing to do in the final battle of your Nuzlocke, by the way. So I switch in Fleckery on a Fire Blast. It does burn me, but it doesn't matter, because Surf takes out the Charizard on the next turn, winning us the battle and the run. That challenge was pretty fun. Not particularly difficult once you figure out how to play around the Psychic types, but still fun nonetheless. Fleckery was definitely the late game MVP, but I was pretty happy that everyone on our final team got to sweep at least one of the gym leaders. If you're looking to try a hardcore monolock, I think this is a great one to start with. There's a handful of battles that you'll still have to think about, but it's also not overly difficult to the point of frustration. It's a great starting point for challenges like this. If you enjoyed watching this video, please like the video and subscribe. Or don't. I don't know. But either way, thank you so much for watching and your continued support. Keep recommending challenges in the comments, and be sure to follow me on Twitter and Twitch to keep up with streams of my future challenges. Since Twitch streaming takes a little bit longer than regular playthroughs, and I want to keep making YouTube videos at a constant rate, I'll be doing side challenges in addition to the playthroughs on Twitch, so stay tuned for my next challenge. It might be Diamond with Fire types, or it might be another challenge I'm working on. Only time will tell. Until then, remember to always, always, always play around the critical hit.